live from the RNC convention in Tampa, Florida. Girard at Large is straight ahead.
Those of you in the surrounding towns, welcome to Hour 3 of Girard at Large. I am your host, Rich Girard. Thanks for tuning in. Our time is 8:04. Our station is 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio. You can find us on the web at girardatlarge.com, and you can also find us on Facebook and Twitter at Girard at Large. Radio Row is starting to wake up. We have something of an observation. Our ever-eager producer, Steve, said, it seems that a lot of people are sleeping in tonight. And I said, I think you're right. I think the reality of the situation is that the number of guests who circulate through Radio Row is significantly down. I think it was past their bedtime for a lot of
people
them.
Wanted to stay up and see Chris Christie's speech. I think that's because they knew he was going to come out and just tear the doors off the Obama administration, which he did. He did not disappoint. That was all red meat for conservatives, and he did not disappoint. And I think that was the first time a lot of Americans got to actually see a full speech from Chris Christie. Because usually, the news will give you he'll say something inflammatory, and you get like three words from him, and they're like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you said that." But he's a heck of a speaker. I'll tell you what.
He was good, and I do admit that I did fall asleep during his speech.
When he gets finished, you don't ever see anybody ask themselves, "I wonder what he meant by that." No, you never say that. You know exactly what I like the part he said. If he's describing his family life. He said his father was Irish and his mother was Sicilian, and he said if family life was an automobile, Dad was a passenger and Mom was the driver.
Dad was the outgoing, gregarious one. It was Mom's rules.
She was the enforcer. So it was kind of a fun thing. And he said how
his father was in the audience. I was wondering how his father was feeling about all that.
He said how improbable it was for a Republican governor of New Jersey to be giving the keynote speech at the Republican National Convention. But he's done a whale of a job there, no doubt about it.
And New Hampshire's own delegation's been down here. They have been as busy as anybody trying to hook up with those folks has been quite a challenge. Yeah. But taking your calls this morning at 672-0573. That's 672-0573. What do you think? Now, schools are open in Manchester today. We want to talk about that just a little bit because, we just talked to Ovid LaMontagne about federal, state, and local school district relationships. And we have a listener poll and a listener survey. Is the answer to our education problems more involvement by the federal and state governments and what happens in local schools and school districts? Is the answer more? Is it more money? Is it more mandates and regulations? Is it just more? Or is the answer less? Less from the federal, less from the state, and more for the local community. Manchester schools open today to what some are calling complete disaster. Larger class sizes, fewer class offerings. Are we just warehousing our kids? Are our schools just babysitting institutions now that we've lost another 150 some odd teaching positions due to budget deficiencies? We ask, who do you blame? Is it the mayor for not proposing to override the tax cap? Is it the alderman for failing to override the tax cap? Is it the teachers for failing to accept the same contract extension language on the health insurance benefits that would have saved $4.5 million and put most of them back to work? Is it the school board for years of just flat-out stupid policymaking and the use of one-time money without ever coming to deal with their fiscal house? Is it all of the above? Or, so far, one of the favorite answers thus far has been, it's George Bush's fault. I have a feeling that George Bush's fault is going to be a runaway favorite.
There's an end to Bush derangement syndrome eventually here, hopefully.
I think it's an official, American Psychological Association diagnosis. 672-0573. How much, and I think it's an important question to ask as schools open. When you take a look at, all of the money, and remember, there's another $30 or so million that Manchester receives from the federal government for various programs that the federal government imposes on us that aren't in that $154 million that they get to spend. And that's a big number. Where does that money go? Should it not be the case that the school board here in Manchester takes an evaluation and assessment of exactly what the costs of taking federal money are, we should have a strings analysis. We should have a strings analysis. I've often said that the strings associated with federal programs are it's just enough rope to hang yourself. They cause more harm than they do good. I don't know. Do you think Ovid LaMontagne was a crackpot for being at the chairman of the State Board of Education for being the only state in the nation to refuse to take Goals 2000 money and accept the program into the state of New Hampshire? The only one. The only one. What do you think about that race?
What do I think about it? What, LaMontagne and Smith?
Yeah.
I think it's getting to the point where LaMontagne looks like he has an almost insurmountable lead. And I think you've noticed a little bit of, some would call it desperation coming out of the Smith campaign. And I think that there's a realization starting to set in that Ovid LaMontagne has a tremendous amount of cash behind him and support, and he's had a lot of folks. I think he came out with a list of about 132 different state representatives that endorsed him. It's kind of a snowball effect. So we got a guest coming up here real quick. So we're going to be talking about with Generation America CEO in just a moment here.
Yes. And then we'll be talking to Ray Puglisi, a hometown boy who's hit it big here in Tampa. He's going to tell us how he's keeping all of the conventioneers who have to go through the paces before they get into the building through all this security. How is he keeping them cool? And say hi to some old friends back home. So if you know Ray Puglisi, get your phone at 672-0573. I'm sure he'd love to hear from you. So this segment brought to us by, we've been throwing his name around, so we might as well say Ovid LaMontagne. He is running for governor. He's got a GOP primary. This September 11th, he's asking for your support. And he's offering his solutions at ovid2012.com. That's ovid2012.com. You can learn more there. Girard at Large time is 8:12. I really think that the hill that Kevin Smith has always had to climb was somehow to show that Ovid was a fatally flawed candidate who would lose to the Democrats in November, or that he himself was so much better a choice that he just had to be had. And I like Kevin. I think he's a good candidate. If he did win, I would be disappointed for Ovid, but I wouldn't be disappointed as a voter because I think Kevin Smith would be he's shown himself to be a capable candidate. I think he'd be a very capable governor. And I think the state would be in good hands if he won. But that said, I'm not sure he's made the case that he is a superlative choice, or that Ovid is a fatally flawed one.
Well, also, I think there may be a little desperation. We're getting down to nut cracking time here right before the primary. We're running out of days here. I think there's a lot of perception there that the person who wins this September 11th primary is the next governor of New Hampshire, because you've got two far left liberal big spenders that are going to be whoever comes out of the Hassan-Silly primary, especially if it's Jackie Silly. I mean, she is going to raise your taxes. She's has basically said as much with her zombie ad about the people who take the anti-tax pledge. That is, if you need to be told in plain English, she's going to raise your taxes. Well, that's the ad you need to see right there. Your taxes are going to be raised if you elect a Democrat governor. That's okay. That's who they are. But ahead of time. Don't be surprised, like, oh my gosh, look at that, my tax bill went up, and it has something to do with the Democrat being in the corner office. It's going to happen.
School's in session in Manchester and all the surrounding towns now. The state's largest city back to school with larger than desired class sizes, fewer than desired class offerings due to budget constraints. Take a look at GirardAtLarge.com. Let us know what you think the answers are. Is it more federal, more state involvement, or less? And who's to blame? Is it the teachers for failing to accept the contract extension with the necessary concessions on the health care? Is it the alderman, the mayor, George Bush? How about the school board? Let us know by going to GirardAtLarge.com. Coming up next, we have Patrick Boykin. We have Patrick Boykin. He is the president of Generation America. George, time is 8:16, and Radio Row is surging back to life here. We are joined now by Patrick Boykin. He is the president, correct? CEO of Generation America, and I'm going to let him explain who he is and what his organization's all about right here on Girard at Large, the only New Hampshire radio show here on Radio Row. Good morning, Patrick.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right, we need to get you right up close to the microphone.
There you go.
I know, it's kind of hard for a tall guy with you and a short mic stand like
That's
that.
quite
But
all right. Thank you.
If you want to take it right out.
No, that's fine.
All right.
I'm great.
So, Patrick, why don't you take a moment to introduce yourself and your organization to our listeners back in Manchester, New Hampshire?
You bet. Well, Generation America was started back in 2009, really as a result of AARP supporting the healthcare plan. So our founder, was very upset about the fact that they were supporting, and he's a senior himself. So he said, we got to do something about that. We got to offer a choice, an alternative that's more conservative and traditionally valued. So he founded in 2009. We've had rapid growth. We now have members in all 50 states and 3 U.S. territories. So we're growing by leaps and bounds. And, we offer our members a voice. We have benefits and services just like AARP. Some of them are better, actually, because we work for the members. We're not incentivized as a company in our philosophy.
You mean you're not taking your piece of all of the insurance policies you sell and all that stuff like they
exactly
do?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We're not an insurance company. We're not founded by insurance industry experts and financial experts, people in the business. We're just conservative Americans wanting to offer seniors a choice.
So you're a senior advocacy group. You offer services similar to AARP for seniors who are looking for their discount cards.
Right, save money, exactly.
But you come at it from a different angle. So when you say you're a conservative alternative, what sort of advocacy does your group provide seniors in the halls of power?
Well, I'll tell you that traditionally, that you hire a lobbyist and you go to Washington. We actually kind of did that in the beginning, and then one of the lobbyists said, "Don't bring me 1 million members. Bring me 1 member with $1 million." and we kind of shook our head and said, "Well, we can't. We got to change that." So we listened to our members. They're very engaged because they were disenfranchised over at AARP. So they're very vocal. We survey them often, and we take their voice and their opinions to Washington via, writing letters, emailing, and contacting senators and congressmen directly.
So you have sort of a direct contact model. But, you must be up there on various pieces of legislation voicing an opinion, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was mentioning before the show that we surveyed our members right before we came here. And if you...
by what method did you survey them? Was it a web poll? Was it a scientific kind of poll survey?
Well, it's a survey, exactly. Okay. We email them, email them 7 questions. And it mainly revolved around Social Security, Medicare, inflation. How is it affecting them personally? Because a lot of seniors are on fixed incomes. Mm-hmm. So the rising inflation and all this debt that we've accumulated, and the QE1 and QE2 has really hit hard the seniors. We talk about the debt's going to affect our grandchildren and children. It's not. It's affecting seniors today on fixed incomes. Right. Fuel, home heating oil, especially in the northern climates. We have members claiming that those 2 things alone are more than their mortgage.
Oh, yeah.
So seniors are very smart. They're very wise. We need to look to them for advice. They know we need to take down the debt, reduce our spending, because it's dramatically affecting them right now.
Well, not only that, if they get any kind of dividend or interest income from their investments, there's nothing there. Take it from someone who deals. I'm licensed in this stuff, and I've got retirees and as clients, and it is, you just can't find an interest-bearing account.
Correct.
You can't. Even the mutual funds that are fixed interest are having a heck of a time serving up any kind of dividends, or fixed income funds, because of the environment, the interest rate environment that's been created by all this borrowing.
Exactly.
So what did you find in your survey results? Governor Christie last night in his speech made the point that Americans want to be told the truth because they want to help, and that we are wrong to assume, especially I think he pointed out seniors, are only in it for what they can get out of it, and that he believes that the people of the United States of America understand a problem, want to know what they can do to participate in solving the problem, and he included seniors in that. Did your survey find anything that would lead you to conclude that the seniors are, as some have portrayed them as, only in it for their check, these greedy SOBs who don't care about their kids, their grandkids, their future generations. They want their Medicare. They want their Social Security. They want their check because, damn it, they worked for it. Is that what your survey found?
Well, I believe they want to be honored with the stuff they put into the program, but at the same time, they know it needs to be fixed. You know, the general polls that you see and read about in the media portray seniors, and even conservative seniors, that there's a small percentage, 30%, are wanting Medicare reformed or Social Security reformed. We're not seeing that. We're seeing a vast majority. 95% of our members last week told us that they support Medicare reform, Paul Ryan's plan. And they also want a privatized option for Social Security. They know it's broken. They know it's been used as a slush fund, put over to the general treasury, and there's some IOUs over there. So we need a different option. You know, we publish quite a bit of articles about and educate our members. And, you know, if you look back at Chile, they reformed their Social Security in 1981. They offered a privatized option, and now their workers are receiving 50% more income than the people that stayed with the government plan in Chile. So we need to reform Social Security, and that is an option. And 95% of our members, 88% of our members agreed with that. They would like a privatized option, and they know that the future generations need a better option, and it needs to be reformed for them.
Girard Large, time is 8:22. We are live here in Tampa at the Republican National Convention, currently speaking with Patrick Boykin. He is the CEO of Generation America, an alternative senior advocacy group to the AARP, founded out of frustration of not only its founder, but its several, I guess, hundreds of thousands of seniors who felt themselves disenfranchised by AARP. Yes?
That's correct.
Now, do you have to be, a goofy question, do you have to be a senior citizen to belong to Generation America?
No. You know, we focus on folks that are 50 years and older. I mean, we focus on the issues that affect those folks, but you can join if you're less than 50. Younger, we'll say it.
We were talking about that the other day.
Do you get a break on your membership? Do you get a break on your membership if you're under the target age?
No. Actually, we should charge you more, but no.
Oh, boy.
You know,
we still raising kids.
All of our goal is to get to that age eventually. The alternative's not so great, but you know, I'm talking to my dad about this, and he's a very conservative guy. And when he has heard your commercials, I heard Chuck Woolery talking about it on the radio as well, and that is right up his alley. And he expressed concern about how liberal AARP had become and how intertwined with Obamacare and all that. And that's turned off a lot of people. But my father never knew about an alternative until he heard your ad campaign, and he is totally excited about it.
Well, great.
Yeah, he saw the pictures of us with Chuck Woolery. Like, oh, that's the alternative to AARP. That's what I'm looking at. You know, so you got one more client, so that's good.
Well, that's a
thank you, Chuck.
Yeah. Well, that's a great example of the enthusiasm we have with our members. I mean, they are excited. They're very engaged with our surveys and what we're doing. So, do
you find that members of Generation America tend to be, because you bill yourself as the conservative alternative to AARP? Do you find that your members are more politically astute and a little more in tune with, like they know that Paul Ryan's Medicare reformation won't affect their benefits, and they're not buying into the scare tactics like we're going to push grandma off the cliff and do all kinds of horrible things. So are they a little more savvy when it comes to what's really the truth out there?
Oh, absolutely, they are. They're informed, educated. They want more than just a cursory information. Right. We provide references to our articles. Where did we get that information? Right. Where's the truth? Because we hear a lot about in the convention today about the truth.
Right.
We got to bring the truth out and tell everybody whether it's bad news or good news. You got to tell the truth.
Now, what sort of, are there specific issues that Generation America focuses on, or is it whatever you believe will affect your constituents? Do you have a primary target, I guess is my question?
Well, that it goes back to, we listen to our members. We take their voice and let them be heard. So we don't set an agenda per se. We ask our members, what are the issues that you feel are affecting you as a senior, and we take that and help build our platform. So we don't have an agenda and ask them to support that agenda. It's quite the opposite.
And how many members do you have now?
We have we kind of keep that a little bit under the covers, because
lots and lots is good.
Well, yeah, thousands and thousands of members. We kind of want to sneak up on AARP. I mean,
they must be feeling the heat, because I have for 5 years been getting solicitations from AARP, and I'm only 42.
Correct. Well, we've heard
Maybe
from,
they get me confused with my dad. That's possible.
Oh, yeah,
but, you know.
well, there's industry, experts have said they've lost anywhere from 8 million folks.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of folks, they took a big hit because of this. But, people just
they're
decided
selling the
to.
long-term care policies and other things that will be required really for anybody to own under Obamacare. I mean, so if you're selling the stuff that Obamacare is going to require be sold, you've sold out. You've sold out for the benefit of the organization, not the people it's supposed to represent.
Well, that's a differentiator between us and AARP. AARP has one insurance company that they provide Medigap and MedSup insurance. We have an aggregator that offers multiple plans from multiple different insurance companies. We don't take a commission, so they get a little bit better deal.
And you get the price savings.
And you get to choose
right.
from many different insurance companies. You don't have one choice and that's it.
Right.
So now for New Hampshire, as we were talking before you came on the air, we have the second highest per capita number of veterans behind South Carolina in the entire United States. And for some reason, a lot of New Hampshire retirees stay in New Hampshire. They don't, not the typical snowbird.
They'll have Florida plates, though.
They'll spend some time in both states. Like a lot of New Englanders will come down here, especially in the dead of winter. Snow shoveling gets boring after 50 or 60 years. But we do have a lot of folks who stay home in New Hampshire. Kind of paint a picture of a retiree in New Hampshire. What do they get from their membership with Generation America? What does it look like?
Well, they get discounts at hotels when they travel. We have about 12 different brands with choice hotels.
Okay. We're staying in one right now.
Well, exactly. You could have got a discount the rest.
All right.
So we have multiple hotels that offer discounts to our members.
Yeah.
We got travel packages, insurance plans. We have our own credit card. So if you want, our credit card is one of the best in the nation. I mean, it has a very low interest rate. You earn a lot of points, no annual fee, no transaction fees, etc. So anyways, we got to go to the website, generationamerica.org,
Okay.
and all the benefits are listed in the menu there below benefits.
Yeah, we got a lot of listeners, I think, that are going to be very interested in that. GenerationAmerica.org.
And do you have any kind of like a membership fee or?
We do. It's $24 a year. It's slightly higher than AARP.
It's $2 a month.
$2 a month, but if you want to commit yourself to 3 to 5 years,
can I have an installment plan for that?
It's only $14.40 a year if you extend your membership out and buy a little bit more.
Good. Sounds like a great deal.
Yeah.
So Generation
I'm far too young, of course.
Generation. Well, hey, listen, if we can
right
get
around
in,
the corner.
I assume the discounts apply to any member,
That's
right?
right. Well, we need your voice too.
That's right. I think I'll go ahead and do it.
They always said that we were ahead of our time, Mike. So why not take advantage of it?
All right.
I don't know if they let Stevie in though. I'd be worried about that.
Well, Steve's going to be a senior citizen someday. So
all right, Girard.
We're all going in the same direction.
Okay, so that's generationamerica.org. That's generationamerica.org. Correct?
Yep, that's correct.
All right. Thank you very much, Patrick Boykin, for being with us today on Girard at Large. This segment was brought to us by. Dropped my pen. Ken Hawkins. He is running for the state senate in District 9. He's been a state representative in Bedford for the last decade, giving up a safe seat to take on new challenges in the state senate. Bedford, New Boston, Mount Vernon, and Lyndeborough. You're all in our listening area and in the district. Learn more at kenhawkins.com. That's kenhawkins.com. Girard at Large time is 8:31. We are live from Radio Row in Tampa Bay, Florida, here at the Republican National Convention, the only New Hampshire radio show here. Now, there are 15,000 journalists, and I believe that we're not only the only New Hampshire radio show here. I haven't seen any reporters from anywhere in New Hampshire down here. I think they're all working off of their network affiliates. I don't know, but we are here in part because of the generosity of our next guest, Chuck Rolacek. He is running for the Executive Council in District 4. He saw value in this effort and decided he would underwrite it. Chuck, we thank you for it. We're having a great time, and hopefully we are honoring your sponsorship by providing great coverage of what's going on down here to the folks back home.
You guys are doing a great job, Rich. I just wish I was with you.
Well, yeah, it's been interesting, and it's kind of fun just watching all the people who float by and here and there, and everyone's having a great time. I'll tell you. Did you catch any of the convention last night, Chuck?
I did. What's interesting is that during the day, it seems like the focus is on New Hampshire politics. You hear what's going on. You get your mail pieces. Various talk show radios shows are on, and then you kind of come 6 o'clock. It switches to the national news, and of course the Romney-Ryan show. So it's quite a difference day, each day.
Chuck, I wonder if you could help us understand things. We've heard a lot of talk about, Obama's never run a lemonade stand, and Romney knows what the real economy's like, what real businesses do, how businesses really work, et cetera, et cetera. And, I suppose there are some obvious points in that, but help us understand, in as much as you've been in business for 35 years, whether you've been working for the corporate beast or you, in fact, have been the owner-operator of the business. Help us understand the thought process of a business owner and why you believe that is, in fact, a good thing in someone who is seeking public office.
Well, Rich, I think it comes down to the fact that let's go with the entrepreneurs out there and the small business person, whether it is a dry cleaner business, a car wash, or a restaurant. I think taking it from the ground floor up, from having the idea to going and getting the loan to actually hiring your first group of employees and starting out that way, it takes a lot. You run into a lot of obstacles. You have a lot of challenges, and I think the people who force through that, it's so easy to turn away. Even in my own business, there were a few times in almost every business where I said, nah, I'm not going through with this, or this is going to be too difficult. But you somehow dig deep and find a way to get through it, and when you're open and the customers are coming through, you say, I'm glad I did it.
A lot of times people who have business experience get into politics, like Romney does, like Mayor Gatzis does. They're often accused of being insensitive to the needs of people, that they don't understand the needs of people, that all they care about at the end of the day is the bottom line. Why do you think, Chuck, that is the case? Because you hear it everywhere. Why do you think it is the case that they're susceptible to those charges?
I really don't know, Rich, because I think the entrepreneurs and the small business people that I've known over the years are some of the most generous, some of the most compassionate, some of the most understanding individuals. And I think it's because small business people realize that their assets are really their people. They may make widgets, and they may have a great location, and they may have, there might be a need in the marketplace for whatever they're doing. But it really comes down to it. Unless you're, someone once said, unless you're, Neil Diamond, he may not need a lot of people around him, but every other person needs someone helping them make the product, provide the service, etc. And to the contrary, I think entrepreneurs, the example that I always think of is, it's easy to lay off 100, 200, 1,000 people from General Motors when the vice president never sees the person, doesn't know the family, doesn't know the worker, and, might even be in a different location in a different office. Let's lay off 2,000 people and cut our staff so we can bring more to the bottom line. The person that runs a small business interacts with those employees each and every day. It's pretty darn difficult to lay people off when you've worked with them side by side and you see how hard they're doing to help your business. So I think to the opposite. I think entrepreneurs have the bigger heart.
Do you think maybe part of that rap comes from the fact that a business owner, like yourself, there are times where I'm sure you've had to make decisions because results matter, and unless you have more money coming in than you do going out, you don't stay in business. And so sometimes it's an unforgiving circumstance that doesn't allow the business owner to do what they would like to do, but what they have to do. Do you think it's that reality of the business world that you have to stay in business? That sometimes, like trimming a tree, you have to take out some of the dead or damaged branches for the rest of the tree to grow and flourish or survive. Do you think it's the business owner's willingness and ability to do what is necessary, even though it's not popular, because they know what they have to do to stay in business that maybe leads to that condemnation that they're so often hit with?
I think it's part that. I mean, let's face it, to use the phrase that they used last night, you really can't kick the can down the road. I mean, there's no other options often but to look from within to either create more sales or save some expenses or do what you have to do. I think the other bad rap is that small business owners are getting rich, and why should we feel for them? I mean, they have no boss. And I used to tell my employees all the time, to the contrary, I have two sets of bosses, you, my employee group, and the customers. They really direct me on how I act each and every day. I mean, they tell me when I'm out of line with high prices or poor service, and then the employees tell me, "Hey, boss, we need more money, or we want a better benefit package, or we need more time to do this, to perfection." So I think it's a little bit that the business owner has no one to be accountable for, but to the contrary, he's got to be accountable to those two groups of people.
Draw Large time is 8:38. We're on the phone with Chuck Rolacek. He is the owner of the Hanover Street Chop House, the former owner of the C.R. Sparks restaurant in Bedford, and he's running for the executive council in District 4, and he's helping me understand the mind of a business owner and how it applies to public office. And let's get right into that now, Chuck. You were recently endorsed, yesterday I believe it was, by Londonderry Senator Sharon Carson, very popular down there in her district. What was her reason for stepping forward and supporting your candidacy against one of her colleagues, Senator Tom DuBois?
Sharon was very supportive of my candidacy, but I'd be remiss if I didn't say that she had a lot of respect for Senator DuBois and that she thought Tom did a great job in the Senate. But she just was making a decision that she thought my skill set was more appropriate for the position. Sharon had been part of the Republican contingent here in the NHGOP that used to have a lot of functions at the event center, and I think saw me in action for the past 20 years. I used to be a Londonderry resident, so we knew each other from the neighborhood as well. And, it's kind of...
So that's it, you're from the hood.
Well, I never looked at it that way, but I guess you could say that. And I think that she just thought that, right stage in my career, right skill set, a lot of energy to take this to the next step. And probably, I think she mentioned being capable to beat the Democratic candidate, Chris Pappas.
And Chuck, it's getting loud here at Radio Row, so if you guys hear that in the background, just know that's all part of live on-the-spot radio. Chuck, let's take the prior conversation that we were having about how business owners view things and why it is a good thing for them to get involved in government. Take the business experience that you have and tell our audience, how will it instruct you, guide you, or otherwise form what you do as an executive counselor?
You learn to work with minimal resources many times, and you also look for out-of-the-box solutions. I mean, an example is I often mention or often cite the Liquor Commission. In my 20 years of dealing with the New Hampshire Liquor Commission, I've always wondered why there's 3 commissioners. I've always wondered why none of the commissioners reported to each other. There is a chairman, obviously. And that's an example that it just seems like there's, 3 columns of power working in different directions. Why not get it down to 2 liquor commissioners, a chairman and maybe a deputy commissioner?
Why not one?
Save that money and streamline it. I mean, it's a $500 million business. Maybe have one chief, one backup if something happens to the chief, and put that money to better use, and you're going to make the department a lot more efficient. That's just one example. I mean, another example that I think of is, in a solution to, someone asked me last night at a selectmen's meeting, how do I feel about all the rest stops that are being closed throughout the state for cost savings? And if tourism is such an important part of the New Hampshire experience, how ugly does that look with the chains and the chain link fence around the rest stops when here we are in the middle of the tourist season and things like, how we feel about that. And I said, I think if that's our product, if tourism is our product, we have to put our best foot forward, and it's probably keeping the roads easy to get to and fro, the lakes region and down south, and having the rest stops open. And we seem to do a good job of keeping the liquor stores open. Is there any way we can do to keep the rest stops open and make New Hampshire a very welcome place to be?
Yeah, I got to tell you, I never understood why New Hampshire wasn't like other states and didn't have gas stations or fast food restaurants or something at the rest stops as a way of generating revenue and services rather than these. Basically, they're outhouses with map rooms.
Right. No.
That are terribly interesting to go to. All right, Chuck, we have a couple minutes left here. If there are a couple closing remarks on your campaign, where people can learn more, and what you'd like to say to our audience this morning as we draw to a close here.
Well, you certainly can go to my website, chuckrolacheknh.com, and I appreciate the comments earlier, Rich, regarding the website address, chuckrolacheknh.com. And, with less than 2 weeks to go, I was told by a senior GOP member yesterday from New Hampshire that he says, you're just about to enter the playoffs. And I said, what's that? And he said, you're just about to enter the playoffs. He goes, you're coming to the end of the regular season, and the day after Labor Day starts the playoffs. He says, there's a whole new frenzy that'll take place locally. And he said, you work your butt off for the next 8 days to try to get into the next round of the playoffs. And he said, so if you think you're working hard today, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Chuck Rolachek, thank you for joining us here this morning on Girard at Large. We appreciate hearing from you and for your support.
Thank you very much, Rich. Have a great day, guys.
And that's Chuck Rolachek, NH, ROLECEKNH.com to learn more about his campaign for the Executive Council. Is 8:46. We're joined now by Ray Puglisi. He is, in fact, a Manchester boy who moved south here to Florida, a little place called Port Orange. I thought he was in Tampa. My bad. But he is in Tampa for business, and it's a business called the Chill Zone. And now that hurricane or tropical storm or whatever it was when it didn't,
now.
Wherever it was when it didn't actually hit Tampa.
Isaac.
Thank you. Our friend Isaac. Well, in the wake of Isaac moving along, Ray's business, Keeping Conventioneers Cool, has been in full swing, and he heard we were coming down, wanted a chance to talk to you folks back home who may or may not know him, and share what he's doing. And Ray, we're glad to have you this morning on Girard at Large.
Oh, thanks, Rich. I'm glad to be here.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you, too.
Looks like Florida's treating you well.
It's doing well, yes.
Excellent. So what is the Chill Zone, and how exactly are you keeping these super hot delegates really cool outside?
What we do is outdoor comfort, outdoor cooling, outdoor heating. We're not your typical AC, HVAC type company where we would do anything inside, but it's a supplement to that. People who like to spend time outdoors, like most New Englanders do, need to either heat up or cool down. And another product that we have, not useful here, but certainly would be very useful in the conditions in New England right now, is we do a mosquito misting system.
Mosquito misting system.
Mosquito misting system. It's not a pesticide. It is a solution derived from the chrysanthemum plant. So it's biodegradable, safe for kids, safe for pets.
So you can get it on you.
Mosquitoes don't like chrysanthemums.
No, mosquitoes and other flying insects. The chrysanthemum plant actually has an effect on their nervous system. So
it's like an oil in the plant or something like that?
Yeah, it's an oil in the plant. So they use that derivative to make a solution that we put into a misting system, and it goes around your yard.
So you make like a curtain of mist around your yard to keep
it not quite. What it does is it goes on 3 or 4 times a day, sprays for about 30 seconds, and when it settles, that's when it takes place, takes the effect on all the flying insects. Mosquitoes, for the most part, don't like heat. So they come out when it's cool, in the morning, in the evenings. Most of the other times, they'll hide in the trees and bushes, and so we hit them when they're hiding, so they don't want to come out.
Get them when they're asleep.
You catch them when they're asleep. Catch them when they're asleep at the switch. All right. So how does this work? Now, what are you doing down here in Tampa for the convention? And why is it really sort of important or necessary?
Well, for the people who are here and walking around and see, a lot of the sidewalks are covered with tents to try to keep as many of the convention goers cool as possible. We're in Florida. It's never cool here. We have 4 seasons. Hot, really hotter, really hot, and unbearable. So
the tents then are really designed to keep the sun off of people because the humidity and whatnot. It's been very. Every time I walk out of the hotel room, my glasses fog up instantly.
Exactly. So what the convention organizers did is they brought us in to do some cooling effects on all the tents in front of the Forum, in front of the convention center, and a lot of the walkways around the Tampa area. People aren't hanging out in these tents; they're just walking to get to where they're going. So it's cooling effect to help them stay cooler in this heat down here, where most of the people who are from other parts of the country aren't used to this heat. Yeah. So that's why we were brought in. We have, I'd have to say, between here and we're also out at the stadium, we have about 30 misting fans and about 3,000 feet of misting line that runs throughout the.
Now, help us understand, what is a misting fan and what is a misting line, and what do they do?
The misting fans are 24-inch oscillating fans. We have misting rings on them. They have 6 nozzles. And we run
spraying water at us?
Spraying a very fine mist.
What we do kind of like what you see at an amusement park and they stand in line. Disney
correct.
And Universal Studios.
Correct. That's exactly what it is. Yeah. We use high pressure.
This is like at the vegetable down in the produce section.
It's the same concept.
Similar. Yeah. Real quick flash evaporation is what it is. We use high pressure. We run our pumps around 900 psi, so the water droplets are real fine, which means quick evaporation.
Yeah, you can stand near it and not get soaking wet.
Exactly.
It's just cooling the air temperature around you.
It drops the air temperature around you anywhere from 10 to 20 degrees, depending on the humidity outside.
That's a huge difference out here.
It is a huge difference.
Now, do you have to do something to make sure that the water is a certain temperature?
No.
Really?
I mean, we're just running from a garden hose to our pump. And our pump to our misting.
Anything below 95 degrees is an improvement.
Well, exactly.
Okay, so I didn't know if the water had to be a certain temperature. Oh, look, that's Laura Ingram.
Well, howdy.
Wow. Too bad we couldn't get her on the show. Right. Huh? Anyway, so why is it though? Now, and it seems counterintuitive though that with all this humidity, and as much as the humidity makes it feel hotter because it makes the heat stick to you, why does a mister work? To drop the temperature with all this humidity?
You're still getting the evaporation. Just like when you are working out or no matter where you are in the country, when you sweat, that sweat evaporates. That's what cools you off. So It's similar to that. Here, the temperature drop wouldn't be as great as it would, say, in Arizona and Nevada where it's drier. You'd have a greater temperature drop because you have less moisture in the air. So the temperature difference can vary depending on the part of the country you're in.
Oh, cool. Now, you say there are other things that your company does. Girard Large Time is 8:52 with Ray Puglisi. He's the owner-operator of Chill Zone, a company specializing in helping you cool off or, in some cases, heat up when you're outdoors and you want to enjoy Mother Nature. Now, do you have to have a tent for this stuff to work, or are there other apparatus?
We have the fans. The misting line works great in tents. We do a lot of our business is on the rental side. We do a lot with NCAA football. If you watch football games, you'll see the misting fans behind the bench. That's us. NASCAR. We follow a lot of the NASCAR races around the circuit and keep the hospitality goers cool. Right. The PGA Tour. We do a lot with the tour. We do
the hospitality tents.
Or
probably would have needed a fire hose to cool off Tiger Woods.
or the bleachers. We'll put stuff up in the bleachers and it'll be open.
Okay.
So it's just an area to cool people off. And the heat stress, the heat illness that comes not just from the athletes but the spectators is critical. And that's what you want to do is keep that core body temperature low. And that's what we do. We go around the country doing that. We do the New Orleans Jazz Fest every year. We do so many different events throughout the country and travel. And like I said, not
to get away from the heat.
Not just the heat, but the cold. We do. A lot of times you'll go to a restaurant, you'll see those propane heaters on the floor.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if anybody really wants to have a propane bottle sitting next to them when they're eating. We do electric radiant heaters, so they're safer. You can literally touch them and not burn yourself. So we do a lot of that again for football, for NASCAR. For not necessarily the PGA Tour, they're done once the cold weather hits. Right. But for restaurants, and I have a lot of restaurants in New England who have purchased the units, they extend their outdoor patio life.
Right.
They can open earlier in the spring. They can stay open later in the fall. People love to be outdoors, but they don't want to be hot or cold. Mm-hmm. So we do our best to keep the temperature moderated, whether it's hot or cold, to help the restaurants or help any other type of business with productivity.
Now, Ray, are you here just in Florida? You mentioned that you've sold equipment to restaurants in New England. Do you have an office or a base in New England?
We don't yet. We're trying to expand there.
Okay.
We don't have a physical location, put it that way. I do have a presence there.
Okay.
We do the New England Food Show every year in March in Boston. My brother, who has a full-time job, does work part-time for me up there doing some events. So, but I do want to expand in New England. That's our goal. Tougher with this administration to move on to expanding, as you've heard through most of the convention speeches last night.
Yeah. Folks here would say that's only a temporary thing, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that as well.
Well, one of the things I was thinking about when you mentioned this mosquito mist thing that you do is, the city of Manchester and several of the surrounding towns have started spraying to kill mosquitoes because of large numbers of infected mosquitoes with West Nile virus. Is this something that a municipality could use? Is it safe? Is it effective? Cost effective? Or the old poisonous sprays? They go out from they start at dusk. They go out at 5, 6 o'clock at night. They'll spray till midnight because that's when the bugs are out.
Right.
It sounds to me like you've got a different approach here.
Well, it's a little bit different approach because it's more singularized to each particular resident. I don't know if they bought gallons and gallons of this and sprayed, if it would be as effective, because the way the system is set up, you would have it around the perimeter of your yard, and it's set on a timer. Goes on 3 times a day.
Okay,
and
so it's a localized system.
It's a localized system.
You can't put it on the back of a truck and run around with
it wouldn't be effective. It'd be great if I could sell them to the cities. That would, then we could easily expand to other areas of the country. Uh-huh. But it is more localized to each particular resident.
Yeah. Now, if people want to learn more about the Chill Zone, your business, and what it offers, how do they find out?
We have a website, chillzonellc.com. You can visit us there. All the information is there. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on every social media you can imagine. And follow our exploits as we go around the country, following NASCAR, PGA Tour, football, events like this. So we're and being small, I got here. It's a long day. Started at 6:30 this morning. It ended last night after midnight. And
you didn't build that.
I didn't know. No,
that's Chill Zone.
I had to get that. I knew there was going to be a window you were going to open up for me, Ray. I was going to slide that in there for you.
That's chillzonellc.com. You can also find Chill Zone on Facebook and Twitter. This segment brought to us by Mark Warden. He's running for state rep in Goffstown, Ware, and Deering. You already know him in Goffstown and Ware because he represents you now, but he went to the big boy district, running for the flotorial seat that represents all 3 communities. To learn more, go to markwarden.com. That's Mark Warden, W-A-R-D-E-N. And the way Mark is, he's like a warden with those reps who don't like liberty and want more government and more spending and more taxes.
Oh, yeah.
markwarden.com.
I've been watching you, a la 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 long, a la 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 long, long, long. Come on.
Average time is just about 8:59. We want to thank Ken Hawkins for State Senate, Rick Parent for U.S. Congress, Chuck Rolachek for Executive Council, Ovid Lamontagne for Governor, and John Burt, John Heichel, and Mark Warden. They're all running for state representative. Without the support of these folks, we would be unable to be the only New Hampshire radio show here on Radio Row. Tomorrow we have another busy day with guests chalked up. Paul Ryan speaking tonight at the Republican Convention. We will have the fallout from that. Fallout, is that the right term? Stay tuned to Oh My Blog as we're posting little notes about what we're doing here and how much fun it's been and giving you our insights on all that's going on. For the entire team here at Girard at Large, I am your ever humble and appreciative host, Rich Girard. Thanks for tuning in. Coming up next, JJ and Ron in the Morning, which follows American Family Radio News and Station ID, which starts right now.